All right, so how to write a resume and a curriculum vitae, or CV. I'm just gonna jump right in and start by betting we all probably have some form of a rough resume somewhere out there, and if not, even that, then we at least know what one is. But a CV we might not be as familiar with, and before we start to write either one, we have to know what exactly they are and the difference between the two. So, here we go. Okay, so a CV, curriculum vitae, means course of life. It is similar to a resume, but more in depth and therefore lengthier. Where resumes are competency based, they're basically a personal marketing document. They intend to showcase your skills, notable achievements, and work experience, but curriculum vitae are credential based. This meaning it's a comprehensive list of your education, certifications, research experience, and professional affiliations, memberships, and more. So now that we kind of know what to shoot for, I figure the best way to learn is just to do the things. So, yeah. Alright, how to curriculum vitae version. There are really two main focal points on both a resume and a CV. There is the aesthetic value and then all the information. The aesthetic format is almost just as important as all the information because you have approximately 6 seconds to make a first impression when the reader is looking over it. For a CV, it should be longer than your resume, but not exceed 2 pages. At least for right now. Applying for entry positions or anything where you have less than 5 years of real experience in that field, the people reading your CV honestly probably won't read past the first 2 pages. So be clear and concise with your information. The aesthetic format should be similar to a resume, so make sure your font is readable and professional. But readable and professional does not always mean Times New Roman. My example is from my brother-in-law, who is currently getting his master's in business, so I guess by now he would just bleed Times New Roman, but word geography, so you can branch out. Just make sure it's professional and readable. I would honestly advise against Times New Roman, just because the small change in font will make your CV or resume stand out just a little bit more from the stack that the company is going through. I even listed some fonts here that are good to use. For aesthetic purposes, it is good to find a template, but don't just copy the entire thing. Make it your own. You can find them literally everywhere. Just Google CV template. Google Docs has some pretty good ones, or you can just look at examples and format them similarly. Alright, resumes and CVs can get a little overwhelming with all of the information and formatting and like the strive for perfection that you're going with, so just take it one step at a time. If you want to make your life a little easier, before you start, I would just jot down a list of all these credentials and sort them by category. Then you can start to put them into your CV format with the right aesthetic and information underneath. For the information, like I said earlier, it's credential based, so make sure to list and explain all areas. In the example, the first one he put down is his education, which is generally what you should start with. Make sure to include the dates here, and I said list and explain. What I mean by explain is what he did underneath the titles. He furthered his information by including an emphasis and both his major and cumulative GPA. Next, he put experience, which you do on your resume as well, but usually it's placed first there, and here make sure to include education first. He included his work experience because what you've done in any sense is a credential. He's been in the workforce for a few years, so his is long and mainly job related, but here you can include anything experience related, anything related to your field. This is where you would put research experience, teaching experience, conferences you attended, and the work that you did for them, anything like that. Make sure to put underneath each one what you did while you were there, and most importantly, anything you accomplished for yourself or the company. Make sure to also include the dates, those are super important, and make sure to list them from most recent to least. Don't do it by order of relevance or stuff like that. From here on, you move to certifications. Remember that these are not awards, those come next. Certifications are anything that you've received that gives you the proper approved credit for the job you're applying to. For us, this includes any like GIS certifications, like an educator certification, Excel is also really taking over the business world, and so there are online classes to get certified in Excel. It's in my example, and honestly, it's really an eye-catching one to have, so suggest looking into that. Alright, the last bit of CV includes any leadership positions you've had, any organizations you've been in, and all that gives you the experience needed for this job, and also any academic awards you've received. I followed an example just to give y'all a gist as to what goes here and how to put it all together, but what it should look like doesn't have to be exactly like this. You can switch up some of the titles, just make sure you include education and experience. The ones that you can play around with are things such as if you've published a lot of work, participated in multiple conferences, then I would honestly make those their own section, and if they have a lot of meat to them, then you can always put them by themselves. Just make sure to title it correctly and eventually to stay within the page suggestions. Personally, here is where I would have strayed away from the example at the end. I probably wouldn't have titled it Academic Honors and Community Service. I would have probably said something along the lines of academic awards, scholarships, grants. Being right out of undergrad, I would go ahead and list all the achievements and things that I've applied for and gotten throughout my past years here. So that kind of sums up a CV. Hopefully that made sense, and now you can create your own list of bomb achievements and prove yourself credible. Alright, now on to how to resume version. If you already have one, obviously don't toss that and start from scratch. Just follow this to make sure it hits all the requirements and polish it up so it looks nice and shiny. If you're starting from scratch, remember to go find yourself a template. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. You want this to be something that you are proud to turn into a future employer, because you really just have to remember that the resume's main job is to get you that interview. So, we moved on from the business major example and onto the media and entertainment arts management major, so you really just get to see all sides of the spectrum. Remember, yours just needs to be clean and professional. If you have no clue what you're doing and it's your very first real job application, your resume has the ability to make it look like you know exactly what you're doing and what you're after. Your resume should be specifically suited to your chosen career path, and remember, as opposed to a credential-based CV, it should be competency-based. Short and sweet. Really aim for one page, but still give enough information to prove that you have the right skills for the job in which you're applying. Alright, so what to include? Same as your CV, your name should be at the top. Make sure it's your full name, but don't include anything like the second or extra information like that. It should be what you routinely go by. If you don't go by your legal name, it's totally okay to put what you do go by as long as it's appropriate. For instance, if your legal name is Catherine but you go by Katie, just put Katie. Make sure it is the same name as it is on other platforms, just that they might be checking, such as your email or social media. Alright, next is all your contact information. That should also be near your name at the top. This includes your permanent address, phone number, and email. Please, guys, oh my gosh, for the love of God, make sure it is a professional email. You do not want to apply to a job with tumblrgirl2020@gmail.com as your email. Make sure it's something like your first name, last name, an appropriate number if you want, at whatever site you're using. If you don't already have one that's professional, then literally pause this and go to Google right now and create one. It takes about 2 seconds and it's free. In the example, she even includes her social media and LinkedIn accounts. This is absolutely alright too. Honestly, companies are going to look at them anyways, so you might as well be open and upfront about it. I just hope whatever you have posted on there is appropriate and something y'all want these future employers looking at. If they're not, then you might want to go through them and archive or delete the ones that are not. Whether or not you put them on your resume, these people will go snooping for them and find out anyways. Alright, next comes your objective. In the example, she slides it into her personal background. It's just a super short blurb, about 1 to 2 sentences, on what you want your career path to be and what you want to do with it. It's a specific purpose for the resume. Here, Anna says, looking to help drive brand loyalty and engagement as assistant marketing coordinator and further marketing abilities. It is in a language that is tailored to her job and tells exactly what she is wanting from this. If you're doing just an objective section without the personal background with it, make sure to include the position title and employer name/company you're applying for, and do not include a period at the end. Just like your CV, you're going to include your education. You need to include the university's full name. That includes the in the University of Southern Mississippi. With that, you should have the full name of your degree, so geography, and if you have an emphasis, that too. Don't forget the BS at the end. I also recommend putting the college too, so we would be Bs, but obviously put biological, environmental, and earth sciences. Make sure you put the date too, at least an expected graduation month/year. Throw in your major and cumulative GPAs as well, only if they're above a 3.0. The extra information that I have mentioned at the bottom would be something like if you're a transfer student, not just a few credits transferred, but like an official transfer student, make sure to include that as well. Put them in chronological order, so USM at the top. Reverse chronological order, so put USM at the top. Or if you have a minor, make sure to include that too. Alright, skills. That would be the next one here, and this is where you put things like language proficiency, software proficiency, just make sure what you put here relates to the job that you're applying for. Also, don't add things that are vague and elementary, like organizational skills. Zipping through now to experience. This is one of the main aspects, so I cropped these out from both examples. So they're more clear, just so you have two different options, but both are acceptable resources. Here needs to list any professional experience, which includes internships, practicum, field experience, and work experience. These should also be listed in reverse chronological order. When listing and explaining each of these, make sure you include job title, so the position you held, name of the company, where you held it, the location you worked at, the city/state will honestly be fine, and the dates that you started and finished. If you don't have the exact dates, then just use month/year. Underneath it should be a bullet list, not a paragraph, a bullet list describing what you did and what you were responsible for and what you achieved in that positions. Make sure they're not full sentences. Make sure they're bullet list, short and sweet. All of these examples are pretty great. On my last slide, I have tips and tricks for wording these right, so it makes it seem more professional what you did, even if you literally just ran food to tables for a summer. Alright, next, you should list any awards and distinctions. This should really be a short bullet list of any honors you've been given. Make sure to give the complete name of the award and who you received it from. This can be anything from scholarships to grants, placement on presidents/dean's list, and just stuff like that. Now on to another topic you should have, which is organization memberships. The example doesn't strictly have a section for this, which is a good method when you can't fully flesh out a section, or if you're running out of room on your page to do more sections. But if you can, try and make it its own, because you can include any program you have been a part of during your college career. This includes any professional associations, student organizations, and extracurriculars, such as athletics and Greek life. With those, you can put underneath any leadership positions you've held and what you did for those organizations. Okay, extra goodies. Now, these are things you can include if you want to, if they play a big role in your life, or if you need help adding and spicing up your resume. Things like interests display who you are outside of the work environment and what you enjoy to do in your free time. For the references, now I know my example does not include this, but definitely put this little phrase for references. It takes up hardly any space at all, and then if they ask, you can have a separate document already filled out with at least 3 professional or academic references. On that separate sheet, you should include the reference's name, their employer, their position title, work address, work phone, and work email. All the format should be the same as your CV and resume. Community service and related coursework are great to add, but only if they relate to your major/the position you're applying for. Okay, y'all. last slide. Just real quick little tips and tricks. I know it's been on practically every slide, but remember the aesthetic value of what you're doing. Make sure it's symmetric and consistent the whole way through, and make sure your CV and resume match the same aesthetic. Alright, use an action word list. This really improves the language you use and helps it stick out. Try not to use the same 2 action words, and make sure what you use properly aligns with what you were trying to say. But these word lists are everywhere, and there are so many options, so just have at it. Write in past tense. Everything you're writing about is in the past tense, and this just makes it all grammatically correct. So yeah, just remember past tense. Next, keep updating your achievements, your dates, your contact information, all of it. Check in every once in a while and make sure everything is included and up to date. Y'all, don't lie on a resume. You're just going to get yourself into trouble because one moment you're happy you got the job, but then the next you're asked to do something you know absolutely nothing about and you're fired and you look like a fool. Everything you're doing is for the company. Know the company and tailor it to them so they know what they want and they know that you meet everything that they're looking for. Make sure you check all the boxes that they're looking at. Okay, almost done. Remember to save your document and name it properly. It will show up as its name when you send it to them, so don't just call it resume. Make sure you include your name. The best way to go about it is last name, first name, resume. You can include the job you're applying for, but 10 out of 10, just go the easy route with your name. And finally, go to career services. Y'all, they're great and they have so many resources. Even if you don't want to go in, look at their website and all the help that they have on there. That's where I found this word list from, and a lot of the info that I got researching was also from there as well. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks. See y'all Tuesday.